I'm Barak Perelman, CEO, founder of Opti. Pleasure to be here. I'll talk about our journey in building our AI-native identity security platform. And kind of before we dive right in, quick background. Myself, my two co-founders, also like the previous ones, running together for the past 20 years, coming from deep cybersecurity and engineering backgrounds. Back in 2015, founded Indegy, an industrial cybersecurity company, eventually acquired by Tenable, where I helped establish the Israeli branch and led OT security. Until a couple of years ago, we felt we have more fuel in the tank. We wanted to go again and try to tackle, even before focusing on the AI agentics, focusing on identity as a whole, perhaps one of the biggest enterprise challenges. For that matter, we went on to raise the $20 million seed round from Wild Ventures, who we're lucky enough to have here as well, Mayfield, Shlomo Kramer, other industry leaders as well. So very briefly here, as I assume that this will resonate to you, looking at the identity angle then for agentic AI and everything we have in our enterprises, since eventually we learned it in the last couple of years from you and your peers, is that identity teams are under enormous pressure. A massive attack surface, and most breaches today eventually trace back to identity one way or another, while the identity and access management teams there are buried in the daily routines, in operations and compliance matters. The IGA legacy platforms or other IAM tools are notoriously painful to deploy, and even further maybe keeping up to date with our growing infrastructure and applications. And even when everything is in place, most teams today claim they feel the focus mainly around compliance and not risk and its reduction around identity, posture, etc. And I think the panel said it perfectly earlier that the introduction of AI agents to the mix, our finance teams, our marketing, sales, adds an order of magnitude of complexity to the amount of ticketing, the amount of access that we need to handle, monitor, and guard. And that's we're lucky, and we think ourselves as lucky in many ways to found a company in 2024. That's where Gen AI emerged. And eventually, what changes the game entirely, in our perspective, is specialized AI, essentially providing things that we were never able to automate or do or analyze before. So at Opti, we're not talking about a generic co-pilot, which is bolted on to an existing infrastructure, but instead built from the ground up by training a set of purpose-built models that were trained on role analysis, entitlement structures, access patterns across hundreds of enterprises and enterprise applications. Essentially, our data science team is working on taking these LLMs, which are very good at many things, and making them expert at a very few things. And this is the infrastructure that allows us essentially to help our users go from visibility to really decision-making and actionability at enterprise scale. At the end of the day, we focus on three core areas, first and foremost, starting with risk visibility and remediation of that risk. Finding the overprivileged accounts and unused access, and actually fixing issues, as well as deriving insights on the updating, again, the roles and the policies of our identity program. We tie that back into intelligent access administration, essentially analyzing based on context and dynamically role analysis for joiners, movers, leavers, for access request processes, and essentially helping to avoid rubber stamping and fits on top of the existing stack which we use for identity operations. Last but definitely not least, because this is one of those that truly emerged from the field, are smarter access reviews. Essentially focusing on risk and being audit ready out of the box. We are able to help both with prepping these audits, as well as executing the recertification campaigns themselves. And let's take a look a bit inside the platform and how it looks like, and happy to address questions afterwards. So basically, at the heart of what we're building are the AI models that are trained on identity and entitlement data, as I mentioned before, and governed by natural language policies instead of local no-code workflows by the best practices, compliance standards of either internal documentation, your written policies, etc. And these policies power everything that we'll see afterwards, detecting overprivileged access, handling access requests, or access reviews, etc. Basically, if you describe it in English, Opti can enforce it. And we'll take a look at an example of issues, and we saw before, we'll find a user that has global and admin entitlement in SAP, but they're a mid-level analyst as opposed to what we saw earlier. The policy limits and creates a flag immediately because the system has the full identity context, as we can see here. The title, the department, the peer roles, and all of this gets flows to that specialized LLM to determine whether this user actually qualifies for that entitlement. The identity to the system flows from everywhere, really, from the IDP, from your HR systems, from different applications. And this access graph brings it everything together, show how access is granted, through which groups, what users can actually do within specific resources of these applications. Now, we try not to just surface issues, but really build that remediation plan and suggestion on how to fix the issues that will come up, role changes, group moves, etc., which are very sensitive and again require expertise. As you can see here. Running very quickly, the access request portion, our AI again evaluates policy, peer access, justification, and makes one of quite a few recommendations. Can either approve or deny requests, can escalate to get more approvals, or suggest a more suitable entitlement in scope, in time, create a just-in-time mechanism automatically with deprovisioning when no longer needed afterwards, thus really accelerating the process of access requests. The last thing, not least, as I mentioned, access reviews that get enhanced with risk scoring, surfaces higher risk items first, allows to research deeper into the reasoning behind the risk methodologies, and eventually reviewers can get what they need most. So that was kind of hoping right on the limit, but that's kind of a high level, very high level, try to grasp a lot here about Opti.